Hello, this is Trigger from Basilisk, and today I'm going to be reviewing my own games against HeroMarine. I thought I would mix in some of my own games for a review, just to see what kind of mistakes I make, and also I'm hoping that you guys can still learn from my games, even if I'm not Hero or Max Packs. I can still play decent StarCraft. So this is one of the vital positions of the game. I thought I would just show it at the start, and this is probably the most dangerous position for me. And yeah, as you can see, I don't have many storms, and he's maxed out with 3/3 on my base. So even though I have an eco lead, his army is very scary here. And try to think about like how you would try to defend this attack, because it's not easy. But yeah, but just think on it as I go back to the beginning of the game. And we're gonna be playing on Mothership here. So this was in the Wardi Team League a couple days ago, and the reason I'm playing Mothership is because you don't get to pick the maps. So normally the Protoss would veto this map in a best of 3 or whatever, so. Not a usual map to be played, but in ladder you might experience this map. And there's some main things to keep noted in this map is the Reaper Cliffs here. So this is a very dangerous Reaper Cliff, and there's of course just one in the main as well. And this Reaper Cliff leads right into the mineral line, so this can be very dangerous against Reapers. And that's why HeroMarine here goes 2 gas opening with 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion. So that's the build he goes for. And because I can't reliably scout on this map, I decided to go Sentry. And yeah, that was my answer. I was just decided to just not scout at all, and then go Sentry to scout later in the game, and hope that he doesn't do some crazy all-in at the start, which is not his style. So I wasn't really worried about that. That's why I didn't scout this game. And yeah, this cliff leads him to getting 1 free probe kill, which was my mistake. I kind of forgot about the cliff, or like wasn't cautious enough about it. But I do play 2 battery here, which is pretty normal to play 2 batteries, 1 battery in the main, 1 battery in natural, against when you play Sentry. That's a pretty normal opening. And I go Blink after, which is also fairly normal. You only want to go Charge if you scout something very devious. So if you scout like a very quick tank push, or something along those lines, you could think about going Charge first. But generally Blink is safe enough. And I take 4 gas here, so this is me. If he scouts this, he'll know immediately that I'm playing Storm, basically, or 2 base Colossus, but that's a bit unusual. And yeah, I don't want to take a quick 3rd base against 2 gas. It's a very risky move. And of course I know it's 2 gas because I saw 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, and a Sentry Scout. Yeah, so if he plays 2 gas, he could have a nasty tank push. So I was scared to take a quick 3rd against HeroMarine here. So I decided to just play 2 base Storm into a late 3rd base, which is also pretty normal with Sentry openings. So this is a pretty standard way to play against 2 gas if you open Sentry. And there are 2 main follow-ups for Terran when they go for 3 Reaper, 2 Hellion, or even 2 Reaper, 1 Hellion. It's either Cloaked Banshees or Widowmine drop. You can expect the Widowmine drop to hit at like 430. And if you don't see it, then you could be worried about Banshees. So it was easy for me to know that this was potentially a Banshees and have an Observer here ready. So his Banshee got 0 kills so far. This is a pretty good early game for me, I would say. I lost only 50 more resources when he played a committed opening. It's good for the Protoss. And this is quite a big mistake for me. I mean, I need to keep enough Stalkers here for the 2 Banshees, of course, but there is no reason to send all my Stalkers back. I could keep at least 1 Stalker here to see the move out. That was a mistake by me. I think I don't know why, but I think I just got distracted by the Reaper and made a mistake. So now I'm trying to look out for the army, but I'm kind of finding it late. But at least I know it's coming. So that was important that I saw that army move out at some point. And we'll see that because of that, I land in pretty nice storm. So of course I'm ready for this. I know it's here. Even if there's no observer, I know it's here because there's not really any other path he could take here. And I get a good enough storm to just clean up this fight. And yeah, this is a pretty good opening for me. But economy wise, it's not that great. I'm just gonna, I didn't mean to skip ahead to be honest, but let's just go back. If we take stock of the position after that fight, It's not actually that great for me because I played a 2-base. Like, I'm kind of expected to defend this push when I play a late 3rd base. So it's not like amazing for me. So this is still a pretty even game, I would say. I would say I'm like a little bit ahead, but I don't have a forge yet, so I was playing very defensive here. And at this point, I really need to be thinking about getting more eco, or I need to just push. And I decided that I need to try to do some damage, some counter damage. I don't want to forget about my 4th base. Well, I don't want to all in. I just want to make sure I'm pressuring the Terran and macroing behind it. This Widow Mine's nice to see where his Widow Mines are at and stuff like that. But it's very hard to push when they already have Ghosts. I could have went for timing before Ghosts, but I didn't feel like I had enough units yet, so that's why I didn't go for it. And it's also kind of hard on this map to push into the 3rd base. If you see here, there's only one path here, and this is very like far away. So that's why I decided to just macro behind it instead of trying to commit to the all-in. And 2 Forgers and Colossus is a standard follow-up to Storm. So you don't want to just get like 10 High Templar after you hold the first push. What you want to do is just stay on like 3 or 4 High Templar and start spending that gas on Colossus and upgrades is probably the right choice. And it's interesting that HeroMarine decided to pressure here, because he's taking a 4th base behind this. So he doesn't, like, if I was all-inning him or something, maybe if I have a Prism coming into the main while he's in the map, this could get very dicey for him. But he decides to pressure, and I think it worked out well for him here, because I wasn't expecting it. And I'm also playing quite greedy here, right? Like, I'm getting 2 Robos, 2 Forgers, 4th base. So it's a good time for HeroMarine to attack here in this case. Although, he perhaps did it blindly, so I don't know. I don't know how good it is. If I had gone for a different approach. And yeah, I'm kind of just bleeding units here, which is a mistake. I need to wait for my whole army before doing any kind of attack. I also need to wait for my upgrade. My upgrades are a little bit behind right now because of my opening. So there's no real reason for me to commit to an attack, but there is a lot of reason for me to at least pretend to attack, right? So now that he sees this, he knows that I'm not actually trying to kill him. But these forward move outs make it hard for the Terran to just go, okay, let's go Liberator, range, and 4th base, and double upgrades. They have to be a bit careful. And the Protoss army is a bit quicker, usually. And it's hard to chase into Storm, so you can always just make these like forward pressures without being too worried. Now the real worry is kind of drop plays that can happen while your army's in the middle of the map. If I just don't happen to have recall here. So this was quite a dangerous spot for me here, because I don't have recall. My army is very out of position. So it would have been nice if I had maybe a pylon even further out than this one. That would have been very helpful. But yeah, HeroMarine, he goes for a nice drop here, and he's going to attack this base at the same time. But this is an easy move to anticipate, because it's the only logical next move. Like, he can't come around to the bottom here, right? So you can expect that this base might be under attack at some point. So you just need to make sure you split your army correctly here. And I think Gabe, he was thinking of attacking, but decided that it might not work. But then he's coming in later, so I'm not sure why his units were like dancing in the middle. He could have perhaps gone for it right away. Maybe he wanted for like more units to come. But yeah, and it's really important as well that you don't start fighting here. Like, if by the time you start fighting here, the EMPs already go off and they're already attacking vital parts of your base, you need to like get them on the ramp, or just a little bit early to zone them out, because Storm is more zoning nowadays than the old Storm, so you have to start buying time like that. Yeah, bad Colossus movement by me, but a nice Storm. And yeah, this is a difficult situation for me, but he doesn't commit probably because of that Storm. He wants to heal up his units and then recommit. And also this army got cleaned up, so he knows my reinforcements are coming. So he thinks it's too risky to go in without healing first, basically. And yeah, this is good by me to fight here, or not fight, but start fighting here. I don't have to commit to this position, but I do need to take control of this ramp if I don't want to take a bad fight. And just start zoning him out, basically. And yeah, these storms are doing a lot of work to zone him out. But you can see I'm running out of storms now, so it gets a bit dicey. A bit dicey for both players, I would say. Because it's usually hard to attack into Protoss, and I am starting to max out, so... Usually the Terran doesn't need to force an attack if they're trying to play for late game, which Gabe clearly is. With the +2 ship weapons. And so he goes back, but... I think he could have potentially killed me here, but it would have been risky. And he felt like it was wasn't worth the risk, I guess. And this allows me to just get back on the map and start taking more bases. But this is a very strong position for a Terran, where you can just freely go into a Liberator army. But this is weird by Gabe, so he's adding like 5 Marines to the army. Like, Marines are the lowest quality army unit you can make. So you only really make them if you really need supply, but you're maxed out on a good army already. And you just want to improve the quality. So I think this is a mistake for him for sure. Like, this could be more Ghosts or more Liberators or more Vikings. Or even Marauders would be better than Marines here. So I'm not sure about that. But it seems like Gabe is not too comfortable playing right into Liberators like some other players would. So he wants to kind of end the game, it feels like, with just bio units, which I think is a mistake in this meta. And yeah, he wanted to go for an attack, but I go for the attack first. So this is the thing to understand in PvP right now, is that base trading the Protoss is good for the Protoss in most situations. So you might be wondering why Gabe didn't just start attacking me while I was attacking him. Because in the old saying is that never base trade a Terran, but these days it's not true at all. So he has to go back pretty much to defend. Because he knows the base trade won't favor him when I have Storm especially. Storm is very powerful in base trade situations. And so he goes back to defend, but he does leave some units behind to counterattack, so that was well played by him. If I knew his army was completely out of position, I could have jumped this planetary and killed it. But I was being a bit cautious because I just didn't know where his army was. But yeah, it would have been nice for me to have some vision on his army somehow, as like an observer. So I think the game is still even here, pretty much, in the end. Because the recall did save me here, and he didn't lose this base, so it's pretty much even. Units loss is quite a bit worse for me, but that's typical in this matchup. And Gabe is trying to take his 5th base. So, as a Protoss player, you need to continually attack when you're in this position where you have a lot of bases. And you're maxed out on a lot of gateways, so I think I have 13 gateways here. And the timings you really want to look for is when the 4th base lands and then when the 5th base lands. These are when the Terran is most vulnerable. So this is a nice timing by me. But it's unclear if I have quite enough to prevent it from going up. It's very hard because the Terran army usually is just a bit stronger. Luckily for me, he's very late to libs. I don't know why, but he doesn't have any libs yet. I think he could have easily had libs by now to start defending this 5th base. Again, I think this is just a stylistic choice by HeroMarine. He doesn't really like to play Liberators because it leads into a late game, and late game isn't really his style. But I think he should have committed to it at this point, at least. But you can see he's still building like medevacs and stuff, which is not necessary when you already have 10 medevacs. So I think that's a mistake by him. And it's hard. It's hard for a Terran to fight into Storm without Liberators. And you can see the trades here are not amazing for him, really. And of course, because he's not going to libs, he has so much money to rebuild bio. But if he takes one bad fight, it's pretty much game over in this case. And all these fights have been just mediocre for him. I think I made a mistake here though, not having any backup storms. So I should be warping in some High Templar here to start rebuilding that High Templar count that has been lost in case that I need some storms. Instead, I did a warp in the Stalkers and I'm building a Warros. So this is a mistake. I should have at least a couple High Templars warping in by now. But But yeah, it's good I'm putting pressure here. I'm also getting TT Blink, which will be useful later. And I'm just keeping the Terran busy. Looks like I did warp in High Templar eventually, but they don't have energy yet, which is why that's why it's really important you warp these in way earlier so that you have storm energy, and perhaps even 2 storm energies. Energy enough for 2 storms. But also no observer here. It's a mistake because of Cloak Ghost. This is a mistake every Protoss makes, honestly. At some point the observers die and you just never rebuild them. But yeah, I try to I don't know if that's the word, but I try to fix that mistake by getting observer speed and chronoing out some observers. But it's by then the damage has been done, and now I'm in a difficult spot with no storm, with no Templars remaining. So this is the position I showed in the opening, I think, of the video. And this is this could have been game over for me, I think. But I managed to hold. So first thing that's really important is that you get a concave. You don't want to ball up your army, like that lets EMPs do the work and you're just minimizing your DPS. So the first thing is you want to like kind of fan out your army, make a concave, you know? And we can watch this in slow-mo. And then you fight once you have a concave. But his army is a lot better than mine here, so I'm going to lose my Colossus. But yeah, and at this point I have to go back. But this is okay, like I have a big bank and I just need to wait for warp-ins. And if I can somehow survive till 2 more Colossus, that'd also be nice. But you need to not over-defend here, like you can even give up this base if you have to. It's better than losing the game. So I'm kind of letting him do the damage here. And then going in once my warp is done. You don't want to go in before your warp in. Now that my warp in is done, I can fight. I think it would have been easy to just overcommit earlier. So this is maybe a mistake that a lot of my viewers would make, I don't know. But in this situation, first you have to take a fight at some point. Otherwise, you're just going to keep losing stuff. So we did a little bit of a trade here. And that's good for the Protoss. You have to remember that your opponent has no reinforcements, but you do. So it's okay to trade like 10-20 supply, because that's all supply that you can just warp in immediately. So that's a fine trade if you both trade 20 supply. So I think it started with that trade. That was a good trade. And here I can somewhat jump on his army and kill some units. So this is another trade, right? Like, the trade, it's not a committed fight. Because now I go back. I kill a few units and then I go back. And then I wait for my next warp in. And I don't attack until my warp in starts. Now I can go in. And by now, this is just barely enough units with the Immortals. So trying to prolong the duration of the fight is really useful in these situations where you have a lot of money, but he has his whole army here. But he's all the way on the other side. No reinforcements for him, but you have reinforcements. So you gotta use that to your advantage in these maxed out fights. Of course, this game is still very close, but he's still not committing to libs, so he really is scared to go into libs. He is now, but it's quite late, I would say. And he kind of lost his kill timing here. So that was his big plan, I guess, to get some kind of kill timing. But if it doesn't work out, now you're just late to libs, and it's not as easy as you would expect for a Terran late game. His orbital command account is also very low. So this is not like a proper late game. This is like I would say this is still a mid game, basically, because he doesn't have libs or many orbitals. So he never really committed to that late game. And this is a pretty standard way to close out a PvT, is if you can get enough DTs to snipe a planetary and you just distract the Terran while you get the DTs in. This is all just a distraction, basically, and it works out pretty well. So here he just loses his planetary. Now it's very difficult for him because he doesn't have that many backup bases. He has to even replace it with an orbital instead of a planetary. And you can see that I'm never committing to a fight. Like, there's no reason to commit to a big fight. If he forces it, then sure, but it's going to cost him if he forces it, because he has to run through a storm and whatnot. And you can see that this trade is not that bad for me in the end. and he kind of has to run it back. So this is what you want. You want to trade. You don't want to commit. This is how you win late game BBT. High worker count and you don't commit in a big fight. And I don't want to... I have no splash here, so I need to be very careful with this army. I would say I'm being a little bit too loose with this army right now. I need to really wait for some backup Colossus or the Storm before I commit. So this is a bit of a mistake from me, for sure. I need to be a bit more chill here. So maybe a bit too much for me, but I do feel like I'm winning this game. So I'm trying to push the lead even further. And you can see my choice of attack is going to be on the orbital here. You don't want to fight into the planetary if you have easier targets. So I just went with easier targets here. And I back up from this fight. I don't think I had to, but there were cloaked ghosts here and I don't have any observers. So I decided to back up from that fight. So this ended up being a pretty good trade for Gabe. But his eco is really hurting. I mean, he has barely any eco. So this game is already pretty much over if I play correctly. So yeah, I just keep on trading here. And when I start feeling like I don't have enough, I just run away. With some backup storms to lead the way home. And he gets a surprisingly nasty push here. Like somehow, all of a sudden I feel like I'm in a bit of trouble. But again, like in these situations, you can just give up a base. You have so many bases anyways. So giving up one base is not the big issue. You just need to wait for the warp in and then you can go. So I'm just kind of waiting for all my units to surround him. And yeah, I mean he has no reinforcements in this situation either. So this fight was a bit ugly, but it's good enough because I have no observer. And we can just see that he loses this game. Right. So I think this is a pretty normal way to play PvT in the current meta. I would say just a very standard game. I made some mistakes in the early game, I would say, against the Banshees, losing a free High Templar. And I just didn't... This fight here was good enough, but it could have been executed better. And the drop here in the mid-game was also... it ended up being very effective for him. I think I need to have a pylon, like, perhaps just further out so that I have more time to react. So that was probably my main mistake, was not having enough vision there on my exposed bases. And we can watch the second game. So I think this is a game that I'm very happy with because I felt like I pretty much pushed my advantage, like optimally. Like I converted a good start into a winning game very effectively, I would say. So I think this is a good way to understand how to win, not in the late game, but in the mid game. So yeah, so the last game was a late game, like kind of a late game, right? Because I was in a rough spot after the drop. I didn't really have a kill timing ever. So there was nothing I really could do except just play the late game. And that's why I had to win 20 minutes into the game. But in this game, things went a lot better. So I was able to win much earlier in this one. So he plays 2 gas again, but this time 1 Reaper into Mind Drop. And I think against 2 gas Mind Drop, the usual timing for the Mind Drop is 4 minutes. And that's way before Blink, so you don't have any reason to chrono Blink against 2 gas, pretty much. Unless you want to hit with some kind of Blink timing yourself. So you'll see me not really chrono this, instead I'll chrono the Observer. And this Observer is barely in time for his Mind Drop if he goes into the main. If he goes for the natural, I already have Stalkers waiting there, and the Observer will eventually pop, so it's fine. So you can see why chronoing the Observer might be a more effective choice in these kinds of situations, rather than trying to chrono out Blink, which will not be in time. So I like the way I defended that Mind Drop. And I decided to go 3-gate Blink. So this is another way to play against 2 gas, is to play 3 or 4-gate Blink. Because you don't want to take an early third against 2 gas. I think it's too risky. So 3-gate Blink is a pretty safe choice, and it allows you to get some counter pressure done onto your opponent. And this build is it's a lot of different ways you can play this build as Protoss. So this is a usual harassment point, but he had Marines and tanks waiting, so he was very ready for that harassment point, and he's very ready for the Prism in the main. So this was my best bet here. So it was kind of lucky that I went for this spot, but I feel like he probably should have his tank a bit farther forward. Like his wall here seems a bit weird, right? Like his barracks here should probably be over here or something. So I think his building placement wasn't perfect here, which caused him to lose stem, which is a big deal. So at this point I would say I'm already winning the game, just because he lost stem. And he also lost his river for free because he F2'd from the blink pressure. But it's hard to not make a mistake against this build, pretty much. And from here there's not much I can do, so I just get ready to do the Zealot run by. Actually, this is a nice move that I did. So this is not a common move that people play. This is common, like 4 Zealots in the Prism after and start doing harassment, but he tried to counter my Prism with this, which is a big mistake on this map. And you'll see in a moment why. So this is actually a pretty interesting move that I did here, because I saw that he was leaving back only a couple units, and I also saw that he was trying to flank me. So I decided to recall instead of sticking around. Maybe I could have kept fighting if I had full info, but I thought it was too risky, and I was already happy with this damage. So at this point I'm already very happy, and I definitely am in the lead here. Now it's up to me to just start doing some big Colossus pressures. Yeah, I should go over this. So I don't even wait for my first Colossus, I think. Because this Colossus is quite a ways away, so I don't need to worry too much about waiting for that. It's gonna take too long. Instead I decided to just go in with pure Zealots here, which is pretty normal actually with this build. And yeah, try to do 2 things at once here. I saw that he left not enough units here, which is why I was able to commit to a very decisive blink. He definitely pulled too many units here. So this fight ended up going pretty well for me in the end. I killed a lot of workers. But even though supplies say that the Terran is okay here, the worker count is more important, so as long as he doesn't have a counterattack, which he definitely doesn't, because I have Colossus and he has no Vikings, I don't have to be worried about that. So trading SCVs for army here was really good. And now I need to think about my second attack here. So this Observer is really nice, first of all. It lets me plan better. So he gets rid of it. And you can see here that he has no Vikings. Like, he committed to 6 medevacs, which is probably a mistake. He should have went Vikings a bit quicker. So as long as he has no Vikings here, I can bully the Terran as much as I want, pretty much. With correct micro. So here I am just, you know, not overcommitting, just poking the Terran while doing harassment is the right way to go, I think. Kill the Widowmine and recall. So this is a bit underrated, to just recall your Zealot run by at some point, because you know the Terran's going to clean it up eventually. So that was a very successful attack. I killed a lot of workers and lost nothing, pretty much. And you'll also note that I killed this Widowmine here, which was acting as a missile turret, and because I did that, I have the opportunity to get my Prism into his main base. And I also warp in Zealots from this forward base as sort of like a launching point, basically, for my Zealots. So these Zealots will run into the natural, and this Prism will go into the main, and then I'm going to poke the third base. So this is like maximum pressure on the Terran. And it's almost impossible for a Terran to deal with this if you have a Zealot or like an army lead. So you can kind of just see that he does react to the prism, but it's hard for him to react to everything here. And I can leave after killing the tank. He did deal with the prism nicely, but yeah, this is very hard for any Terran player to deal with. So you can see he kind of forgets about this for a second. And now we just go back to poking, now that he reacts to this. You don't want to like start poking before he reacts to this, right? Because he could still have his whole army here. But once I see the army units coming towards these zealots, I can start poking, basically. And yeah, the supply difference is too high at this point, so he leaves the game. So I think that's a way to avoid the late game as Protoss and just win in the mid game, is using your prisms effectively and zealot run-bys while poking the army. I think with Protoss these days, it's really important you never overcommit to the fight. It's not really about winning one big fight. It's more about distracting the Terran and making small gains and taking a lead behind it as well. So I think this is the most effective way to play Protoss these days. And I hope that you guys can also implement this into your own games. So yeah, that was my games against HeroMarine. And yeah, I hope to have another review for you guys soon. Let me know if you have any questions or reviews that I should probably do in the comment below. And yeah, see you next time. Bye bye.